According to the American Immigration Council, more than 55,000 of the 354,000 immigrants living and working in the U.S. under TPS back in 2021 were here in Texas. At that time, they had a 97.1% employment rate. Overall, TPS holders paid $1.3 billion in federal taxes that year. That's $3,672 for each one of them, including children and dependents. So clearly, this population's not a drain on the system. What other arguments have been made, though, Ruby, for why the Trump administration is intending to end this program?
Well, the whole debate was whether or not there could be judicial review. And the reason why was for the equal protection and the racial animus argument. And that was rejected, even though there's been a lot of documentation and wording by the Trump and the administration themselves of the reasoning of why they wanted to reduce to terminate the TPS for Haiti, Syria, and many other. Of the 17 designations, the Trump administration has moved to terminate 13 of them, and the remaining are all set to expire later this year. So that's the biggest concern. And if you think about why the Haitian TPS was created back by the Obama administration in 2010, it was because of a 7.0 earthquake, and we just had one last week in Venezuela, but yet Venezuelan TPS has been terminated. So TPS has been here, although, yes, it's temporary, but it's been here because of these issues in other countries, and it gives a humanitarian option for individuals temporarily to be here. And in the process, they take jobs, they rent homes, they drive cars, and they help our economy. And I think we're going to see a huge hit to our economy in Texas and the U.S. once they start phasing out and start leaving the country if they can't find other forms of relief to stay here in the U.S.
Yeah, Tony, Ruby mentions jobs, and I'm curious when it comes to all the countries under temporary protected status or any immigrants that live and work here in the greater Houston area. Are there any that you have worked with or talked with, can you glean from it, who are working in jobs that we would all recognize as critical here in Greater Houston? Are there certain sectors, certain occupations where we'll see a noticeable change as this and other immigration policies continue to transform Greater Houston?
Yes, I think they generally tend to work in service jobs. They tend to work in stores. They tend to work in convenience stores. Some of them are drivers around the city. They're all over the country, obviously, but they tend to occupy those particular spaces that are very, very intensive in attention to the public. But I'm remembering now that we had a student in the master's program at Rice University. He successfully completed his master's program, and he was a student with TPS status from Haiti. And I think he was quite good, engaged. He had been, I think, a lawyer in his country, and yet he was looking for a job as a consultant in the United States with his TPS authorization to work. So you'll find them almost anywhere, but they tend to concentrate in service jobs.
Yeah, according to the Greater Houston Partnership, in April, they reported on the impact immigrants have on the Houston economy. This report did not break things out to separate TPS holders alone, but the report noticed that Houston area immigrants generate $61.5 billion in spending power, contribute $20.5 billion in taxes each year, and represent 43% of business owners in the region. Also, in terms of the workforce, according to this report, Houston's foreign-born workforce accounts for half of all construction workers, more than a third of the workforce in manufacturing, professional services, and hospitality, 35% of science, technology, engineering, and math workers, and more than a third of nurses and health aides. TPS or otherwise, Ruby, if we see the Trump administration continue to crack down not just on illegal immigration, but further limit legal immigration, what happens in those industries here in Greater Houston?
Well, we're going to be impacted. I just want to also mention that just this last weekend, Republican Ohio Governor Mike DeWine was asking for a re-evaluation of this termination because of the 10,000 Haitians that are living in Springfield, Ohio, which is where a lot of these rumors got started that anyway, that there aren't true, but of the Haitians, but that is going to impact their economy drastically. And that I've read that a third of Haitians TPS holders are in the medical care, including like elder care work space. And so we're going to, just like Tony mentioned, we're going to see a void in this service industry. Prices are going to go up. There's going to be inconvenience. Things are not going to be done as quickly, as fast. There's not going to be enough U.S. workers to fill the void, and it's going to hurt our U.S. businesses, U.S.-owned businesses as well. They've done statistics about how hurting immigration hurts U.S. workers and U.S. businesses, and we're going to see that void. And I think we've already been seeing it as people have been leaving Texas and Houston this last year and a half. And in terms of other forms of relief, there's very few options left because a lot of legal options have been taken off the table by this administration. And asylum is very difficult to obtain. There's a lot higher numbers of people who are detained, and those who are detained are only leaving detention either by voluntary departure, deportation, or potentially a habeas grant, but very few options of bond. So we're seeing a very dismal state at the moment, and it's going to impact our daily lives as Houstonians and Texans. And it's just a matter of time before we really start seeing the effects.
Houston area immigration attorney Ruby Powers, Tony Pyan from Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Thank you both very much.